Uh, Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rap. I'm very pleased to once again be joined by the amazing, the wonderful Lee Houghton.
Mr. Teasdale, thank you very much for inviting me back on. It's an absolute pleasure again to be chatting with you. Thank you.
And just so we're not being exclusive, our giggles were because despite talking to Lee every day for nearly the last, I don't know how long, I sometimes mispronounce his surname. So I was practicing before we hit record. Horton.
Horton. Yeah, thank you. I think that's the most proper way that it's ever been said. So thank you, thank
And
you. I feel
now it's
privileged.
recorded as well. So
Yes,
there you
yes,
go.
yeah. No, it's good. It means a lot. So thank you.
I think, can you still add the pronunciation to LinkedIn? Or is that feature gone, but it's still there? Because you could put that in.
I think it's still there, but has gone. So I think if you did it, you've got it. If you didn't, you don't. I think, but
Mm,
I will check after this actually.
yeah, please do report back.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well,
So
thank you. And if you can still record it, I want you to record it for me. I'll give you my login details and you can record it for me. I think that'd be amazing. Yeah.
we could start something off where we all just record each other's.
Yeah. Yeah. It's dangerous, but yes.
Very, very.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we are going to talk about teams. What a team
Mm.
is, why it's important, how do you build it, our own experiences, and this came about. I was sharing with you on the phone about visiting. I went to visit a lovely contact center, great people, and we were doing sessions. We were just doing some sessions for about 50 agents, and one of the things I asked them to do, all split into 6 different groups, was come together and list the 3 things that bring them happiness, make them enjoy work, and then the 3 things that drain your energy. And I was just sharing with you that for every single group, all 6, for the first or second, predominantly the first, people just wrote team. And then I asked everyone, the groups, to sort of present back to the others, and everyone was talking. That was shared more passionately than the other 2 items for each group. But everyone said, I love being in my team. My team's great. My team's the reason I come in. I look forward to it. They help me when things get tough. They're my friends. Every single one. And there might be people listening going, well, yeah, so what? But I just thought it was a really interesting reminder. Nothing, and this is absolutely not a reflection of the contact center I was in, because I think this is the reality. None of the groups were saying customers, helping customers, because I think that's a given. And
Mhm.
once you've been there more than a couple of weeks, it's it's just the thing that you do. Um, there weren't people putting down, there weren't groups that were putting down growth, development, and these were high. This center has a great culture, and they have high tenured. They have a generally high tenured agent sort of population, and I just thought, isn't that fascinating? In terms of, I was obviously thinking about the team leader community and how to create content for the community around, there's nothing more important than this. But then I thought, oh, wait a minute. I know someone who is kind of an expert on this. Unfortunately, they weren't available. So I thought, I know, I'll give my mate a ring, see what
Yeah.
he thinks. I'm
Yeah.
joking, of course. I'm
Yeah.
joking.
No, yeah, no, thank you for allowing me to fill in. But like, so we have a very similar experience. So when we initially engage an organization, we create something called a big picture, and we bring a lot of people together, and we ask them to share the things that they'd love to lose, love to keep, and love to have. both physical and non-physical, to try to understand what it's like to be there and stuff, and what are some of the, I guess, the hygiene factors that maybe if we can improve and everybody can see, that we can move forward together to develop a stronger team. And when you do the lose and the have, it's maybe poor communication, it's some of the IT systems and things like that. But the keep, all of the time, or I would say 90% of the time, is the team. People love the team. That's where they've got the strongest amount of connection. So when you shared it on the phone earlier, it was like it mirrors our experience working with people, and I wonder whether there's now so much home working that's taking place, what impact that has on it as well. But then also, just as another point, when we're talking about teams, people understand the word team, but what they're looking for within a team is often different. So one of the conversations I have with teams is, at the start, I'll go around the room and I'll say, give us an example of a non-work related high performing team, and they'll share various different examples, and that then, so like they'll go sports teams or family, but what that does is it gives me a reference point for what they are looking for within a team. So people who pick sports teams, it tends to be strong leadership and the results and that type of stuff. People who pick family, it's level of communication and trust. Everybody understands the word team, but the thing that make it up is often different for each person. But the importance of teams and connection is key, I think.
It is, and it's really interesting. You mentioned there about home working. This contact center have been in a hybrid kind of pattern, like most, I think, since the pandemic. So going on 5 years plus, and I think that's testament to the strength of teams, that they still feel this way when either half, 2/3 of their time they're not working alongside each other in a physical sense, because it is tougher. And it did make me wonder whether those teams that are built entirely remotely now, how, do they have to work extra hard to create that sense of team? Because I've talked often about my career getting on a bit now. I can't
You are.
remember. I can't remember. I can't remember individual performances, recognition, accolade. What I can remember is the teams that I was in, the part, how that felt, the fun that we had, the friendships that were born out of it. And then when I do recollect kind of either projects or moving companies or doing something significant that happened, the reference and the language that I tend to think and use are around being part of a team. And then in my personal life, team's very, very important to me, both from a sporting sense, a family, but also other kind of community groups, and it's I wonder, like, you guys will focus on it, but do you find, for the companies that you're working with, that there isn't stuff that's being done by design to foster it? It just sort of happens organically.
Um, yes and no. I think you absolutely have to be intentional about creating the space to build connection. So it's a connection challenge, and so you've got to create space for people to come together. So if you're working in a physical location, you can have the water cooler conversations, you can have the kitchen conversations, you can go for a walk at your lunch, and so connection is easier to to build through the day, and you can go out maybe after Friday when you finish whatever it is, you can build that human connection. When you're working hybrid or remote, you have to be more intentional about it. You might have a specific conversation, one-to-ones, all of this stuff. It needs to happen. But so I think it's two. It can happen organically and naturally, but only if the spaces are there to allow it. Physically, it's easier. Remote, it's more difficult, but you just have to be more intentional about what is it about team that's so important to you? Like, what feeling does it give you, man?
Great question. I don't know whether it's because I've associated it with, for me, it's always been, for me, certainly before work, it was football. I've been playing football since I could walk, and that just sense of belonging. I think people working together is such a wonderful thing, and I tend to orientate towards groups, movements, feeling like it's you know not necessarily even your people. I've been in teams where you don't have to get along with everyone, but you feel connected because you're all part of something bigger than yourself, and you can come, you come into that group in various different, of course, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're buzzing, sometimes we're moody, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. The door isn't shut because you're not you're not clown you're not the clown guy today. Oh, you're not cracking jokes. Well, get out and come back when you are. It's just that you are part of that team. And I think as well, you mentioned something there that, like, connection. The thing that's kept me in the contact center industry so long is just, it's so cliche that it made me feel a little bit sick in my mouth then, just what I was about to say. But it is people. People are fascinating, funny, amazing sort of backstories that you don't know. You can sit next to someone and work alongside them and go through stuff together and feel like you really know them, and you can still find out new things years and years later. Like, everyone has multiple stories, and we're all sharing the world at the same time, but too often we're all too busy. And you make such a good point, I think, around the intentional bit is our senior leaders curating time for people to just come together, get to know each other. You could help them with either activities or conversations that they could have. Doesn't necessarily need to be themed or pizza or anything like that. But it can just be. It's very important that you as a leader start to allow people to build connections within the team, so that there's more horizontal connections than there is vertical.
Wow.
That kind of thing, I think, is really important. And I remember taking over a team as a contact center manager. We had about 150 people all sat on one huge floor, and I did nothing for the first 10 days, I think. Didn't go to any projects or meetings. All I did was every day come in and just made sure I spoke to everyone. Not even necessarily, my intention was not to talk about work. If people wanted to talk about it, they could. And I'm only talking a few minutes with each one, but I you know, I wanted to introduce myself, but I also wanted to try and get who this large team was. And one of the directors said, "What have you been doing for 2 weeks? All I've seen is you out there with your team." And at the time, I wasn't I wasn't as confident as I am now in that it was the right thing to do, and I felt a bit kind of, oh God, I'm in trouble here. I've only just started. When's my probation?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I said, look, I think it's really, really important that they know who I am, even at a surface level, but I want to know who this team are. And it was kind of, it it didn't land with this senior leader. I think he saw it as a bit of a waste of time, but it paid off. That was just the start of me becoming part of that team, but also that team knowing that I thought it was important to know who they were and where they were at, and those sorts of things have stuck with me for forever, I think.
I love that. I love that. You've said so much in that, in those two answers, in the two answers. So first of all, when you said about what was important for yourself being part of a team, it was being part of something bigger than yourself, and being part of that and being able to contribute to that. And then when you talk about your approach, you are very much a people person, and the relationship and the connection and the strength of relationship is really important to you, and you demonstrate that through your actions then, and by going around speaking to each person, and you mentioned the word belonging earlier on, and so what I hear when you speak is, to get your sense of belonging, you've got to have that, you've got to have the relationship with the people around you. And I think that, like, it's about, we need to understand everybody that is within our team. So it takes activities and actions like you've just done there to find the things that we can find in common, so then we can build that sense of belonging and find the things that we've got to develop our relationships. Not everybody is as comfortable as yourself in going around and talking, but it absolutely starts with just creating those conversations in whatever way we can. We have to be intentional about it if we want to be a team. But to be a team, we need to understand every member of the team as well and what they are looking for. I might have shared with you in the past, when I do the give us a non-work related example of a high performing team, there's been a few examples where there's been people that are getting on personally but not professionally, because the reference points are so different. One person is looking for, I use heads, hearts and hands all the time, and so one person is handsy motivated, so a physical results. One person might be heart motivated, which is all about emotion and feeling, and you've got to create the space to allow people to understand, okay, that person will engage with me on an emotional level, that person engage with me on a physical, tangible level, and then create the space and conversations to do that. Find the things that we've got in common, but work together to call out these differences, call out the things that we're looking for, and then create that environment together. And that's why it is always comes down to intention. And we live in such a busy world currently, that we're demanding results. We want to that we need to, and in the industry, like it's a cost focused industry, and so that's where a lot of the focus has got to be. But we should, if we made it a connection focused industry, then the cost, I believe, will take care of itself, because everybody will have that. Like you saying, but the thing that's important for you for a team is we'll have that sense of something bigger than ourselves that we can all focus on as well. So yes, I think in your answers, they were beautiful answers, Martin.
Thank you very much. You make several good points there as well. One of them, I think, is just, I've often had to reassure as I progressed and had leaders working for me, team leaders, that I think sometimes you have to reassure people you don't have to feel that confident about doing something like I did, for example. You can be introverted, detail orientated, a bit, quiet, and still foster an amazing team spirit. Esprit de corps. What does that mean? It means that we have shared moments that are either intentional, or you're going through something. I mentioned the pandemic. I genuinely felt that brought people together, like ever increasing groups. We were all in something together. We were all experiencing something at times, especially initially, really worrying. And we all went through something like that together, but it was a shared moment. So those kind of shared moments create a sense of team. I've always found as well that you, certainly in the contact center world, you have to name it. You have to come together and say, like, who are we? And I never really, I'd always want to change. A lot of the time, there was no name that came from the team. It was always, this is what we are in the org chart. This is the name. This is the name of our team. No matter how big that team was, and it had smaller teams in it. I was like, no, that's never been for me. You need you need a name. You need a name. You need some other little things that go with it. Um, you know, I'm sure I've shared this with you, but we had 50 one of our teams, we had 501, which was my cost center for this team. And then I would always try and do different things with them. I showed them this video that you can find on YouTube. It's a bit kind of, I did get feedback. It was very sort of sport win, but it was called "Who Am I? I Am a Champion," and it's a high school American football coach talking to his team before going out to have a match. So I made these little business cards that had 501 on the back and then WAI dash IAAC. And I was like, this is our identity, handed them out to, by that point, about 200 people. And it must have been about 10 years later, one of the team just sent me a picture of his wallet, and the card was still in there because
Wow.
it had grown legs after we showed the video, got the cards, talked about what it meant to be part of 501 and all WA. You had to sort of spell it out what it meant, and this is who we are, and we're going to try and be the best we can, and we're supportive of each other. Then it grew legs. Then people took it on, referenced it, talked about it in their outside of work. And for this guy to send me this picture, you know, 10 plus years later, I was like, that's cool. That is cool.
I mean, it does say a lot about him as an individual, though, as well, doesn't it? And in his wallet. But I think that is really good that like he's held on to that identity, hasn't he? And that it's meant something to him to be able to share. Well, and you sparked a thought when you were talking then as well. Like we live in organizations that are just a collection of teams, and often when we think about team, it's us as a leader and our direct reports. That's the only team we think about. But actually, what about the peer who sits next to us in the team leader meeting, or the senior leader who sits next to us as well? And so when we're talking about creating teams, we need to consider not just those that work with us on a day-to-day basis, but horizontal as well, because organizations are a collection of teams that need to work together, which is really important, but often not considered.
100% agree with that. 100%. That's why I think using your organization as the community center at the center of the community and then putting on other groups is really important. So that could be different groups based on uh, minority groups. It could be causes. It could be shared hobbies. I think it's a really good sign of a contact center if you say to them, like, what other social groups have you got? They should be loads. There should be loads. Oh, we've got a cycling group. We've got LGBTQ plus I group. We've got this group. We've got that group. Um, and it's the contact center that's become the source of those groups. That then, when to your point, when they're kind of like, oh, I know this person because we play table tennis together, or I know this person because we're in the book club, or things like that. Again, it's just it creates this much more cohesive
Mm.
entity based on the other groups that exist, or um, where I was when I was last employed, we always did some physical challenge and associated fundraising around it that drew the team from all the different parts of the company, and then would go off and do the three peaks or something like that. And that was amazing. That was amazing because you would be in a minibus drive into Scotland with people you'd seen them. You knew who what they looked like. You might not know their name, but spend 24 hours climbing three mountains with people, you really get to know them. And that will stand the test of time forever. And I think
Mm.
that's really, really heartwarming.
Absolutely is. And like I say, stands the test of time. And I think that's the biggest legacy a leader can leave behind, the strength of feeling that people have got for each other, because you've created that environment to do so. If we just if we flip the script just a little, like, how do you know, or what are your signals, or what are the signs for you that a team is not a team? What are the things that if you were to observe a team? So, and the reason why I think this is an important question is because there's a lot of leaders who probably believe their team is a team, but there'll be things that we have seen, observed, that maybe suggest that it's not a team, or they're pretending to be a team. So, what are the signals that you look for or have observed that suggest that?
Great question. Straight away, I kind of just thought of really, really good teams like develop that they've developed their own language, in jokes, the relationships that they have are really comfortable so that, you could, the little groups within the group, you'd say, oh, those two are always together. And that would be, and everyone would sort of smile because they know and they've lived together in that time. So I'd say definitely I think you can observe the energy, the vibe, the language that's used, the comfort with which people orientate around each other. There's a level of comfort that I think you can see. It's interesting to think about how that manifests itself in the hybrid world. But again, I think if you were observing like a Teams channel that was dedicated just to check-ins and chat and how are you and what you're having for dinner tonight, or last night, um, you would be able to observe a team through how they were writing, whether they were a good team or not, or whether they kind of had those connections. Because I think you would always get somebody as well. Let's say the team's got 8 people and there's 7 people in and out of chat. I know one of them, 2 of them, would check in on the eighth person that hadn't responded. Are you busy? Or you okay? What's going on? And it's that kind of they understand who they are.
What about if a team never argues? Is that a good team or not a good team?
It depends. To your earlier point about for different people, they're going to answer differently, I guess, even within that team. Um, because and again, I can't help myself but think about sport. I played for a very good team, and there were arguments
Mm.
all of the time, because we were all so obsessed with winning. Um, and those arguments never kind of lasted, or there was no link, there was no bad blood afterwards, but there were a lot of arguments. But for the majority of teams I've been in, I think a healthy level of disagreement is a good sign that you can have, because the whole point is we're saying you're comfortable in a good team because you are stepping into an environment where you can be yourself. So you should be able to challenge and feel comfortable doing it, and not feel like you're going to be ostracized, dealt with harshly, or break connections. We're assuming everyone's reasonable in this scenario, yeah. So yeah, I think a healthy level of disagreement is important. I think the thing that probably changes the intensity of that is what's important to the group. Like, is it, are you part of a team where it is win at all costs? There's our sales target, um, call capture target, trophy we're going for. It could be anything. If you are part of a team that is the be all and end all, it's going to change a lot. It's going to set the mood for most types of interactions, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. And the reason why I asked the question is because I think a lot of leaders maybe mistake agreement for connection and high performance. But I think it's absolutely, I think it may, in a lot of instances, be masking the real opportunity of high performance. Like failure, conflict, challenge, and problems are the most positive things you can see in a team if the team are agreed on the destination that they're trying to get to. But if you've not got an agreed destination and everybody's not bought into it, then those four words are maybe not positive because it's about the individual and stuff then. And so like my worry is that there's a lot of leaders out there that believe because the team's getting on that actually it's a high performing team, but really maybe the the masking how they are, what they're genuinely feeling and thinking, and to come back to your point, like it's not a safe environment. They're not speaking up. They're not sharing how they're genuinely feeling. And really, true high performance is exactly like you say. You can air the challenges, frustrations, conflict, because it's not personal. It's just for the betterment of the team getting to wherever it is that they're trying to get to.
You, do you know that one of the biggest things that I think is detrimental to team building and therefore performance is artificial harmony,
Mm,
which is what you were talking about to a T. Um, and it would be good to pick your brains on the extent to which the most senior person in that team in the room. Um, I'm thinking of my own experiences where I got very very frustrated with the artificial harmony that existed in part of a senior leadership team I was part of, and everyone was nice, everyone was friendly, we all got on well personally, but you could feel it. You could feel it like a gas coming into the room where we might. I would think it would be healthier to disagree about things and disagree with the direction we were heading. But often, the most senior or the couple of the most senior people in the room could kind of just stop that kind of
yeah,
murmuring of discontent. That actually, if you'd have allowed that fire to burn, could have got rid of the gas, could have really moved us forward. But it was all very emperor's new clothes. Oh, okay, the leader is, is off on one, and he's telling us to all be quiet and all agree and just get on with it. And and it was all done pleasantly. That's the thing. And I think
yeah,
I found that entirely frustrating, and would often, I look back now at some of the ways I behaved. I was intentionally disruptive, but it was born out of frustration. And I think there must have been a better there's well there, definitely better ways that I could have handled it, but I would just sort of throw my toys out the cot and go, "This is ridiculous."
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think that's where this artificial harmony, that's what it creates, because people have got to hold things in, and then they
Mm,
don't feel safe to contribute those things. So it looks like teamwork, it looks like everything's going well, but under the surface, it's not. And this is why we've got to be really intentional about the environments we're creating. As leaders, we need to speak last so we don't bias the rest of the conversation. We need to provide space for everybody to share those thoughts. We need to ask different questions as well. Maybe something along the lines of what have you thought but not said, and like just to try to get people to share the things that they're thinking but not saying, so we can start to uncover some of those things. And then when they do share some of these things, not don't shut it down, because then nobody else will step forward. We need to make it really safe for people to share what they're thinking. That is is teamwork. And I remember writing an article a couple of years ago now, and the title was "Just because your team works doesn't mean you've got teamwork." And so
Nice.
sometimes the measures and the outputs suggest we have teamwork, but really the behaviors that sit within the team is not genuine teamwork.
I'm 100% behind that, because the output masks so much. Now, if you are a high performing sales organization, everyone's like, everything must be good. And nobody wants to rock the boat because it's working. Why do you even need to disturb and ask any, or any of these questions at all? Because what we're doing is working. And I find that really, really interesting. Like, I was doing a session with a group of, I would say they were no longer first line managers. They're all the next, middle manager or above. And it was a group that were drawn from 3 different geographical locations, all responsible for different departments and that kind of thing. And all I asked at the start was, do you consider yourself a team? This this group? And the answer emphatically was no, but also we don't need to be we don't need to be a team. Was there were variations of that. And trying to be the friendly voice of challenge. I was like, so you're all working on 12 different things, are you? There's no like common goal here, or things that you would like to see in all of your different areas. I just found it fascinating. And but genuinely one of the main reasons was they never came together as a group like that unless the big bosses were there to talk to them about something. And I found that fascinating. Each of these people were competent, experienced, lovely people, leading probably good teams. I know the culture's good, but that group did not consider themselves a team at all.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's a really important question to ask. Do we need to be a team, or are we happy just to be in a group of individuals? And dependent upon the environment and the where we're trying to get to, the answer may be different. But if you're the senior leaders within an organization and you are not a team, and you see yourselves as a group of individuals protecting your own function or directorate, then you're going to create silos within the rest of the organization, because that's the language, that's where your metrics are going to be, and all of that stuff. And so we have to really understand the team of teams thing within organizations, get everybody pointing in the same direction. When you started your answer, when you're talking about metrics and stuff, and I was thinking about watermelon reporting, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, but like watermelon reporting is where it looks green on the outside, but scratch the surface a little bit and it's red. And I see so many dashboards and reports where they have to be green, even though it's not really green. And then some people might use ambiguity, so they might use amber in between because, oh, I can't really say it's red, or I don't want to really say it's green, so we'll just make it amber. And just so because we know we'll not get asked a difficult question.
Yeah.
No, that's not a high performing team. It's
Yeah.
again, it's this artificial harmony. And there's little clues that are being left all the time in different teams, everything being green, everybody getting on, that actually looks like a team, sounds like a team, but is absolutely not a team or the best team it could be.
Mm. For you then, how the same question you asked me earlier, how do you know what a good team looks like, sounds like, behaves like?
Healthy conflict, I think, is one of the main things. So they don't shy away from it. Share of voice as well is something. So if when I'm observing a meeting, if I can't tell who the leader is from that meeting, then that's not a bad meeting, because there's a share of voice, and it's everybody's contribution is counting. So a couple of things there. If the dashboards are not all red, or no, sorry, not all green, and so that we're doing it. Well, another thing as well is when we are reviewing the actions in a meeting, if it sounds like the last time that these actions were spoke about were the last meeting, and it's like just, or we're refreshing people's memories from the last meeting, that's not a good meeting, because people have, or that's not a good team, because people haven't taken the actions and then gone and been accountable for delivering them, and we're just coming back and we're doing it again. So I think we want people to take ownership, we want people to deliver on actions, and I think so. A few things. Let me summarize. Not everything being green, people delivering against the actions, and healthy conflict would be three things that you can observe in any meeting. You can observe a meeting and you can see these things. One other thing as well is the conversations that happen. Are they personable, or are they process? And if it's all pure process, where's the opportunity to connect? And I think if we can connect at the start, reflect at the end, or if we can just make sure there is some opportunity to connect, then that's a stronger meeting. But yeah, those four things I would say.
What would you say then? I once was, unfortunately, my team were located right outside one of the, I think he was our sales director, outside his office. And when he came out, the first thing he would look at was a big plasma above our desks that showed our performance. And he first of all asked me what some of the colors meant alongside both my team's activity, but then on the other side of the other half of the screen was our current performance. Weirdly, it was, if I remember rightly, orange was a good color for the team's activity. Purple was a bad color because it meant everyone was in wrap and not talking to customers. And then on the dashboards, it was the usual red, amber, green. And he would come out and be very busy, always going off to different meetings. But he would look up. If he didn't like the colors, he would, like, this was old school, chew me out, shout at me in front of everyone. It was very unpleasant. But once I realized that he didn't necessarily stop or have time to stop to scrutinize it, we had a particularly good day and a good moment. So I took a screenshot and put the screenshot instead of the live feed. So I just had the screenshot up there for weeks of a really good really good day. And one of my team went, that hasn't changed. That is well out of date. And I was like, yeah, I know. Don't just.
Because of the behaviour of the leader. I'm doing a talk later this week, and it's called "Culture is the Real Boss," and BOSS stands for behaviours observed, set standards. And so, because his behaviours were that was the standard, and because that was the standard, that's your then behaviour that then you've got to do to survive as well. And
you can use that story if you want.
Yeah, I might do.
Yeah.
Martin, I'll start with Martin said.
No, you don't need. You can even just say, co-opt it. It's fine. You love an acronym, don't you? You've got so many. Or is it abbreviation?
Yeah,
which one is it?
No, it's absolutely an acronym. Yeah. So yeah, I do. So and there's a couple of, one is because that's how I'm wired, and so for me to remember stuff, I've got to
that's a good
create something that. But I think this one is my best one. So behaviors observed, set standards. I think there's it's really relatively easy for people to understand actually. And part of this talk that I'm doing tomorrow is there's five things. So one of them is I'm just going to ask people in the room. I think there's about 60, 70 people in the room, and I'm going to say how many people have cancelled a one-to-one really late, and then just put your hands up on that. How many people have walked past a piece of rubbish on the floor? Put your hand up if not. How many people have Oh, there's three others as well. How many people have asked for input but never used it? How many people have? You get the idea.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is find five common things that most people have done, and then I'm going to go right. Okay, if you've done one of those things, stick your hand up, and then hopefully the majority of the room have stuck their hand up, and I'll go, well, your culture is not your values on the wall. It's not your strategy document. It's the hands that are in the room. And I think we, as leaders, we have got such a huge responsibility to be conscious of our behaviours every single day, because that's the thing that's setting the standards. And so when we talk about intention and creating high performing teams, it starts with our behaviours as a leader. I think it's fundamental.
Very insightful, mate. Very insightful. Because I'd often think about the definition of being the leader, and the kind of the quick thinking around that is vocal, visible, setting the setting the direction, say, this is where we're going, praise, all of that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of the time you're more the kind of the custodian or the caretaker of the space that people can just come in and get on with their, again, I'm going to the community center, come in and get on with their activities and really have a good time and enjoy being around each other. And now and again you might need to step in and um you know be the administrator of, or the peacekeeper, or whatever. You might just need to tweak here and there, but actually it's the that's how I've always seen it. I would have loved you to have been around and observed some of my team meetings. You'd probably think, I that old concept of hire people who are better than you. You'd have probably observed, God, they're picking on that guy a bit, aren't they? Because it would be. I'd get a lot of pride in that, thinking, God, my team are smart as. This is great. Um, but
But you've
yeah,
been
never
intentional
that.
about
Hmm?
that. You've been intentional
Yeah.
about that, about creating that environment, creating the spaces, and providing that opportunity for everybody else to flourish. And one thing that's like comes across in absolutely everything you do is your lack of ego. Like, it's never about you. But then if we think about a lot of leaders in situ, what's made them successful is the things that they hold on to so tightly. Um, and so sometimes it's difficult for them to get out of their own way. And and it is this challenge. And so if people are behaving the way that they behaved when they were growing up in their careers, then that's success. But the things we're talking about here are getting people to work better together, and they need to be more Martin, don't they?
God no. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
what a
yeah.
scary thought. Do you think that we have this? I know the whole concept of tribes, um, but our innate need to be part of something more than ourselves. If you think about me and you, we're both solo business owners of micro businesses, like microscopic. So, like, you'd need a huge microscope to see.
Yeah.
Um, but we both orientate towards or have created little teams, little groups. Um, I know for me personally, I miss that. Uh, I miss the energy and the dynamics of, whether it's verbal, non-verbal, just that kind of being in amongst the team. And I think a lot of what we do, yes, there's a work output, like we do the frogging, we do lots of other things, which is really really helpful from a productive point of view. But I think the benefits I certainly feel are much more than that, because it is like a substitute for not being in a team. Like when the wheels are falling off and you're in a team, you kind of all work together to put them back on. When the wheels are falling off and you're solo business owner. Now, luckily, there's kind of I can put up the frog signal, the bat signal, and speak to you, speak to people that we kind of hang out with. Is that something that's been important important to you? Have you missed being part of a team, or do you always feel like you're in a team anyway?
I love people. Um, so in fact, like I listened to something, I can't remember when it was, a while ago now, and it said something along the lines of if I gave you a quid and you gave me a quid, we've exchanged a quid. Okay, and it's still exactly the same value it was before. And but the beauty of teamwork and people working together is if I ask you a question and you ask me a question, we both exchanged one question. But the number of thoughts that it's created, the ideas that it's generated, the actions that may follow from that have compounded. And so actually, and that's what I think the beautiful part of people coming together is it's not a transaction of a pound for a pound. It's an opportunity to create I'm going to call it a mastermind. So the coming together of collective brains. And if the environment is right, the question is right, then it all compounds. And that's what I love. I love the opportunity that's created by people coming together. Um, so yeah, team is important, people are important, but it's just that collective coming together. That's what I love. That's what I love.
And can that be for a short time? Does it need to be, can it be for a purpose that you can still create this sense of a team?
Until the restraining order kicks in, and then I'm no longer meant to be part of a team. uh, yeah, I think it can. As like if there is a common purpose. So like before, when I'm coaching people, depending on the context, I'll introduce it. It's another acronym. It's ICE, ICE. And so what I'll suggest is before a meeting or before a coaching conversation, or I will say, okay, what's your intention? What's your connection builder? And what's the environment going to be to ensure that you get where you are? And I think if we can, so if it is for a short time, we need to have a clear intention. We need to have a clear way to build connection, and we need to create the right environment. Do those three things, and then you get this mastermind, the people coming together, and it's powerful. So yeah, I think it can be a short period of time.
I think you can, 100%. You can get people together and go, right, you're the blue team, you're the yellow team. What happens? They form a team instantly. You're like, right, let's get them.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So
Powerful.
remind us before we head off. We will be back doing something else soon, I'm sure. But remind us of BOSS. What is BOSS?
Yeah, so like BOSS stands for behaviors observed, sets, standards. Everything we're doing is all about the behaviors, and whether we like it or not, as leaders, our behaviors are the things that people are seeing, and so that's then sets the standard for everything else. And so I think if we can remember that, then maybe we may show up slightly differently, and encourage people not just through our words but through our actions and behaviors as well.
Love it. Love it. Perfect timing. We will be back rambling again, I'm sure. Um, I meant
Next
that.
time another, yeah, yeah.
I meant that in a
Next time
positive
somebody
way.
else falls out. Yeah, yeah, amazing. Honestly, absolute pleasure as always to talk to you in a recorded or a non-recorded format, mine.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you all for listening. I can guarantee we'll be doing this again soon. So, Lee Houghton, thank you, thank you very much.
Cheers, mine.
Has he finished? Let's go.